Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Catalyst webinar series presented by the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA. The Catalyst webinar series is a bi-weekly educational platform for creating success and change in your club and career. We are very excited and honored to have Vice President of the PGA of America, Mr. Don Ray, joining us this morning. Don needs no introduction. He is a member of the Arizona Tourism, Lodging and Tourism Association. He is our national vice president. He is moving through the chairs and will be our national president in 2025 and 26. And Don is no stranger to social media. He's probably our most prolific executive committee member to really tackle social media and take it where the national board has really never done before. So Don, thank you very much for joining us this morning. I know you're in Little Rock this morning for the junior event. Thanks for joining us. We know how busy you are, and thank you very much for joining us on the Catalyst webinar series.
Yeah, no doubt. My pleasure. Yeah, I'm in Hot Springs, actually, just outside of Little Rock, Hot Springs Country Club for the Junior PGA Championship. We're gonna pick a Junior Ryder Cup team, depending on how everybody finishes tomorrow. So it's pretty exciting.
Absolutely. And we've had Nathan Carnes join us on the Catalyst a few weeks back, and we've got John Lindert joining us, President Lindert joining us in 2 weeks. And many of us are very familiar with your political platform. There's so many hot topics today in the game of golf, and we'll delve into those as much as you're able to divulge and talk about. But what we'd really like to dive into today is Don Ray, the story and your journey of your career as a PGA professional, your career as a proprietor. We're dying to know how you got a hold of the social media, just wherewithal that you have. A lot of us follow you on LinkedIn and Instagram, but we were really dying to know about your journey in this great game.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's kind of a second career. I was a professional umpire for 9 years. I did 1,300 professional baseball games. And when I was in A-ball, I was actually in the California League. Back then it was Palm Springs. Lake Elsinore was not a team. Rancho Cucamonga just became a team, the Quakes. So yeah, I enjoyed that time. I think it was 91. I was there. So I umpired for 9 years, got to AAA, and just I didn't think I was going to make it to the big leagues. And I was like, what's my plan B? And a great job as an umpire is to work for UPS, because any Christmas drivers. So when the season's over, you end up working for, you can work for UPS. And I delivered to a golf course, a little 9-holer called Riverview, which is actually where the Chicago Cubs spring training facility is now. Underneath that used to be a nice 9-hole muni golf course. And this PGA golf professional, Jim Mooney, was just the nicest guy ever. And I just asked him, "And you seem to love your job. How do you get a job in the golf business?" And he's like, "You got to be a PGA member, and he gave me the number, and I called, and I took my clubs on the road with me that year as an umpire, and I practiced. The very first golf tournament I ever played in my life was the PAT, to be honest with you. I passed it on the first try, got a job at Augusta Ranch, the golf course I own now. I got a job there as an outside service person in 1998, I guess, in 99 when it opened. And so, I worked at Augusta Ranch outside, got moved inside. I quit umpiring. And then the good Lord, man, I just had a bunch of tailwinds after that. I got moved to the golf club at Eagle Mountain, one of those fancy $200 golf courses up by Scottsdale. It's in Fountain Hills, actually. And then had an opportunity. I was actually overseeing Augusta Ranch and Eagle Mountain for the management company. And then they were selling Eagle Mountain. They disbanded the management company. I started my own. I got the contract at Augusta Ranch to manage it. And then like a year later, they wanted to sell Augusta Ranch.
What year was that?
When that must have been 2006. It was right 2006, 2007.
So you were umpiring all through the 90s and the turn of the century.
Yeah, I stopped umpiring in 98 and I got married. I married my first marriage crashed and burned. I mean, it was just, I was trying to make it to the big leagues, and there was no cell phones or laptops back then. So I was never home. I mean, my first wife, I wasn't home 7 months out of the year. And then when I met Karen, I just resolved that I was going to dedicate myself to my marriage. And And so when I met Karen, I quit umpiring and got into golf. But yeah, so I think when we bought Augusta Ranch, well, I managed it and then they're going to sell it. So that was like 2006, 2007. And then I was like, oh my gosh. And I had a friend of mine who's actually umpired with his brother was in the big leagues for a long time, Mike DeMiro, but Ray was a CFP. When he got out of baseball, he worked with Charles Schwab and became a certified financial planner. And, he says, I think I could get a group in a private equity fund to buy Augusta Ranch. And so we did. And then when they wanted out, I was kind of caught and I was going to buy it from them. They were going to give me a loan. And then they're like, we're not going to do that. Donald Trump got elected. So they're like, we're not going to give you a low interest loan because the stock market was taken off.
But what
And then
about
I yeah.
2008 with the stock market crash? What was it like?
I know.
At that point?
Yeah. We survived it, right? I mean, it's funny, Augusta Ranch, little par 61, it can weather a lot of storms because at the time, even though, the people on a fixed income, the older people that play Augusta Ranch, 60, 70, 80-year-old people, they still had to play golf. You know what I mean? They complained about the rates, but they were still going to go out there and play. And, we just managed the golf course as best we could. And then, so yeah, when they wanted out, I was going to try to buy it myself and I just couldn't get the funds and didn't really want a whole bunch of investors. And I met a PGA professional and he said, why don't you tell the HOA to buy it and lease it back from them? And I really didn't understand leases. And he kind of walked me through it, gave me a couple of boilerplate documents that I could use. And that's actually what happened. We sold the golf course to the HOA and on the same day they leased it back to me. And so now we've got, it's been 10, we just extended the lease, actually. We've been doing it now for 5 years. And we just extended it for 10 more when I put in the top tracer because I wanted to make sure I had some security on the amount of capital I put in there. So it's a cool deal. And I think there's going to be some opportunities for other PGA professionals to do that. I mean, I didn't have any money, and it was a little work, to convince the HOA to buy it and go through all those steps. But leasing a golf course, you don't have the liquidity event if you sell it. Okay, that's true. But at the age of 56, I was more worried about capital hits, of something, the driving range nets at Augusta Ranch, they're $80,000. You can't finance that. So where are you going to get the money? The pump station always worried me. And how would I repair the pump station if it broke? I wouldn't have the money. And so that's when, it was like, wow, as a lessee, I avoid all the capital hits and that exposure. And it's your golf course. It's just like, leasing a restaurant. If you and I got one on a street corner somewhere, it's still your risk, your reward, your people that work with you. And so it's really kind of interesting. It's great. I mean, it's you got full reign. I meet with the HOA once a month just to, it's almost like if you and I owned a rental home, right? And maybe the landlord wants to walk through the home once a month just to make sure you're not tearing up the carpet. It's kind of the same way. I mean, they're there all the time, but they don't bother me. We've been very successful out there.
Kind of part and parcel of your success out there, I think, is your online tee time availability. You and I had a conversation out in the desert a couple of years ago about your journey with Golf Now and your own Augusta Ranch website. And I think that's a huge part of your success. And if I'm not mistaken, that's kind of a segue into your social media birth, basically. Is that true, or can you tie those together?
Well, the social media side, it really came out of when I was president of the Southwest section of the PGA. I wanted to connect with the members, and every Monday, the ED at the time, Kurt Hudek, we would go to a different golf course and we'd visit with the golf professional, and I would do a video of like, this is where Don's at. And so I did a lot of every Monday. I did it for 2 years, and so got really good at the videos. And then when Facebook started taking off a little bit, we just started posting those on Facebook. And then I just found, you're right. I mean, some of that, the social media side was trying to make Augusta Ranch successful. It wasn't about Don Ray's brand or Don Ray. It was about Augusta Ranch and how do I get to people? When I got kicked off, I had the beef with Golf Now and they kicked me off their website and stole my database from me. I was like, okay, I've got to be direct to consumer here. I have to build a monogamous relationship with my customers. And Golf Now is trying to, get them to play everywhere. They were commoditizing the product. And so how do you got to uncommoditize something? Means you got to build relationship into it. And so, I never really got into Twitter too much, but as far as Facebook was going, and then when Instagram started, that got me to a different demographic. I was on Facebook all the time, just doing videos, doing, rules clinics or rules videos, swing videos, whatever I could do. I got good at it, more comfortable at it. And that's when, when I became an officer of the PGA of America, I delved more into the LinkedIn because I really see it as three different groups that I'm connecting with. It's really been awesome, to be honest with you, John. The LinkedIn, with all the career services, I've got that crowd and I connect with them. The Instagram, there's definitely some young professionals out there that follow me, or when I speak at a high school event, like when I was here and I gave the opening reception speech here at the beginning of this tournament, I'm like, hey, follow me at Don Ray PGA and I'll follow you back. I've got a lot of followers from that. So between that and then doing the Facebook, which is kind of an older crowd, I think I'm hitting everybody. And it's very rewarding, to be honest with you. I mean, I know I'm getting the message out and it's cool. I thought hopefully every officer does it after me. I know some don't want to, and it's a little scary, right? Because you can't say the wrong thing. You don't want to have some social media snafu. But to me, the rewards are way bigger than the risk because of the connections I made with members and meeting with members. And I mean, John, I'll give you one quick story. On LinkedIn, oftentimes I get students, PGM students, who message me and go, hey, can I spend like 30 minutes with you? I just want to learn, how you became the vice president and what you're doing at Augusta Ranch. And, I do a lot of meetings like that with students, and I love it.
Well, I mean, we recently had Craig Can speak at our summer meeting out in the desert, and then we had a District 11 summit at Riviera, and Craig Can was there too. And he talks about building your brand, and I think you were doing that, like you said, before anybody even knew what that was, and for it to stem from you growing your business is remarkable. I did not know that about you going around on Mondays to every club in the Southwest section to connect with the membership. That's a fantastic idea. Can you share with us how you got started in governance, particularly in the Southwest section, and how that segued into national governance?
Yeah, right. I think it always starts with committees. That's why I'm really big on committees and using that as kind of a farm system for leadership for our sections and chapters, and then eventually, the PGA of America. But the Southwest section had a golf pass. And, when Golf Now started, it was called Golf 10. And then it was Golf 602 because of the area code. And then it became Golf Now. And I knew Brett Darrow very well. And I used Golf 602, Golf 10, then it became once again Golf Now at Eagle Mountain. And I was really able, back then I had to fax in my tee times. I'd fax in which tee times I wanted to sell on their website and what the price would be. And what I found is I was managing the rate really well, even better than the Southwest section golf pass, which was a straight 50% off booking a day in advance. And so, I got really interested in the golf pass because I thought it was actually kind of bringing down rate integrity. And so I got on the committee, and then I got named the chair of the committee. And then it was like, well, I'm going to run, for the board. Let's see what happens. I ran for the board. It did not get elected. And a guy named Bill Grove, who ran TPC Scottsdale, he was a stud in that section. He was that PJ Pro, had the Rolex watch, and like, maybe someday I'll be like that guy. And he walked by me and he said, hey, I voted for you. And I was like, no kidding. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to run again. And I ran again and I got elected. And I think I did a couple terms on that board. And then, like Joe Sherchinovich is like, Don, you should run for secretary of the section. I'm like, all right, I did, and I was thinking it just happens that way. After I got done being president, some guys said, hey, you should run for district director, you'd be good. And I did, and I won by one vote. It was crazy. It was actually a crazy story. I actually lost by a vote. And I was walking over to congratulate Jeff Lessig, who's actually now on the national board. I was going to congratulate him for winning district director. And all of a sudden an intern runs to the stage and says, you didn't lose by a vote, you won by a vote. So I beat Jeff by one vote. And then after being on the board, I really liked it. I had this perspective from a public golf, national golf, I was on the NGCOA board, the National Golf Course Owners Board. And I felt like I had a pretty good perspective in the board. And Scott Ashworth, who was a board member who's over there in the Aloha section, he said, Don, you should run for secretary. And I said, really? And I didn't, as much people think like you got it all planned. I mean, God's got a plan. Don Ray doesn't, and it was Really? And then I was thinking, I prayed about it and said, hey, God, if you want me to run for secretary, you're going to have more than just Scott Ashworth asked me. And it seemed like people started coming out of the woodwork going, Don, you should run, you should run. And then I talked to my wife and my daughter, and they're like, I think at first my wife Karen wasn't so into it. She's like, I don't know if that's us. You know what I mean? On some big officer of the PGA, because we're just a little Augusta Ranch, par 61ers. It's like it's like the Beverly Hillbillies making it to, it's the Clampetts going to the White House, right? I mean, for us, my daughter was pumped. She's like, Dad, you'd kill it. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. And I mean, I wanted to do it, but I go, I don't know, Mom doesn't want it. And then Karen, she got fired up about an email I got from a member who told me not to run. And she's like, oh, you're running and you're going to win. And then I, talked to my business partner at Augusta Ranch, Kurt, PGA member. And I said, hey, man, if I get elected, I'm all in. So are you in? Are you in to run the facility? Because I know what happens to guys who win. They typically lose their job. Let's be honest. And so I need you to run, or their facility takes a beater, right? I mean, Gary Shaw told me the stories of his golf course taking a hit when he was an officer. And so Kurt's like, man, I got your back, bro, if you want to do this. And so it's been great. And that's why I travel a lot more. And I'm not trying to set a bar of who should travel and where they go. Nathan and I, we're working hard on getting Nathan to travel the least amount possible. He's got 3 young kids, not 3 young kids, but he's got 3 kids, one going to college. But I got the time, right? And I'm better in person than on paper anyways, right? And so, yeah, that's kind of how it all happened. I never saw it happening, but it did. and I'm pumped. I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, man. I feel it in my soul that I was, in a sense, my whole life's been preparing me to be an officer of the PGA, because I love it.
Well, nobody owns it better than you. Got a question from Tom Addis, actually. Is there anything in the agreement with the PIF? And if you could comment on it, or if you can't, we totally understand. Knowing that John Linder's coming on the Catalyst on August 17th, maybe specific thoughts on player involvement in the formation and negotiations going forward?
Yeah, I think, one, we had no idea, when June 6th happened and that dropped, I found out from a PGA member. He said, can you believe this? And I was like, what is that? There's no way. And then boom, it hit, we didn't know what was going on. We talked to Steph said I had no idea. And then we just started kind of looking at it. It's actually, we're doing a lot of scenario analysis now so that never happens again, so that we're ready. I think every board, I just said this on my vice president to vice president call that I do every month. It's like every section board, you got to have this, an emergency break glass moment so that you know what to do. What's your media strategy? For instance, the Instagram post that came out said that we were pleased and relieved. And nobody on the board, none of its officers were pleased or relieved. But yet somehow through a communication gaffe at the PGA of America, that got put on Instagram. And so now that'll never happen again, that a post would go out that the officers didn't approve. But it's, I think at the end of the day, I don't know what's going to happen with the framework. Obviously, the collateral damage of all this is, I think we've all been asked if we know Tiger Woods because they think we're part of the tour, and it bothered us, but it didn't really have any damaging effects. Well, this is a damaging effect now, because the tour is, who knows what's going to happen to their not-for-profit status. There's certainly senators going after it. The DOJ is just as confused of who everybody is, and we're talking to them too. So I don't know what's going to happen with the framework. Obviously the senators, they don't want a lot of this PIF money flowing through a not-for-profit. Our job right now as a board, and we're working on it, is putting together a branding strategy that in a great positive recruiting type of and educating the non-golfing public of who the PGA of America is, right? I mean, the PGA Tour's players, they play golf for a living. We get people to play golf for a living, right? That's what we do in the PGA of America. So we've got to tell that story. So I don't know what's going to happen with the framework, and the new co and all that stuff. All I know is Yasser mentioned that they want to buy the Ryder Cup. Yasser mentioned they want to buy the PGA Championship. So we've got to prepare ourselves of, if someone's going to try to come after our assets, or I like to call them heirlooms. Don't look at them as assets. They're heirlooms that our forefathers gave to us, and we have to take care of them and protect them, because that's the very way in which we help our members. So, at the end of the day, the PGA Championship, we allowed anybody to play that played before. Brooks wins it, great. There were some people out there like, oh, the look on Seth's face, he must not have been happy that Brooks won. That's a bunch of garbage, man. I was sitting there right there on the putting green with that. We were all laughing about it. Nobody's got any bone to pick with Brooks. We're happy that he won. And if Zach puts him on the team or he makes it by points, God bless him, right? We just want to win. We haven't won over there in 30 years. So we want to win the Ryder Cup. It's a big deal and it's important to our members. And we want a competitive Ryder Cup that everybody watches so that they watch our commercials and NBC's happy so that we get paid and we can do the programs that we do with like Hope and PGA Junior League and those things. So, all we know about the agreement is that we've got 29,000 members that we have to focus on. We've got a scenario strategy, everything that could possibly happen when all this stuff starts to go down. And we've got to protect what we have and make sure that everybody knows that we are the PGA of America. And we raise more money for charity than the tour. When you talk about our members and the certificates that they sign off on every day. And I believe this is the greatest opportunity we've ever had in the PGA of America. The USGA is doing this rollback thing. That is actually creating, we just had a PGA World Alliance, this little tangent story, Johnny, but we just had a PGA World Alliance meeting at Hoy Lake. All the PGAs globally, Sweden, Germany, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, GBNI, PGA Canada. And we all talked about what we want to do with the USGA and all of us in the RNA and all of us are like, hey, they throw this thing out there and then they want our feedback. And that ends on August 15th. And the story from that room was they should be listening to us. We shouldn't be waiting to see what they're going to do. They should be wondering what we're going to do. We're the experts in recreational golf. We're the ones who get people to put hands on a club and we stick tees in the ground. And I think this is an amazing opportunity with the Live PIF thing of defining who we are as 29,000 strong. And then also with the USJ and RNA to flip the script a little bit on them and said, you know what, we're going to call the shots when it comes to recreational golf. Bifurcation's bad for the game. And I'm excited to actually know that I'll be the president in 13 months and I've got to, I get to be an officer working with John and Nathan right now. And we're an incredible opportunity to really, like the Bull Durham movie, announce our presence with authority. I believe we sit on that right now, John.
Do you think of all the associated bodies that the onus falls on us to represent the player through this whole thing?
We represent the player in all levels, whether it's the tour player or anybody. I mean, the tour, okay, Jay Monahan comes out and they're going to be against it. Good, they should, in my opinion, because the data is not clear. This is my own personal opinion. IMHO, I got to put in a lot of my emails down, in my humble opinion, right? But, I'd love to see what the data is. To me, the manufacturers are important to our PGA members. They give us equipment, they give us balls, they help us sponsor our junior events at our own facilities like Augusta Ranch. And so I think that we have a responsibility for all players to make sure that they're enjoying the game. And the ones that I talk to at Augusta Ranch and my little focus group is they like believing that they're playing the same driver that John Rahm's playing. Bifurcation. And can you imagine with this elite ball? So I got some D1 players, potential D1 players at Augusta Ranch. I'm top tracer, 21 top tracer base, kicking out all kinds of numbers, everything but spin rate.
We're going to ask you about that in a minute.
Yeah. So what am I going to get 2 different range balls now, John? I mean, so I got some players that might play D1 and they're going to want to use this elite ball in D1. And so I gotta get elite range balls now so that my D1ers know what their spin rate is or not their spin rate, but what's going on. And they're gonna have to re-gap their wedges. I got to sort the balls if I do it that way. We police, administer, and sell the handicaps, and yet, for some reason, they're trying to tell us that this is good for the game. And my humble opinion is bad for the game. And it creates an opportunity for us to tell our story and protect this 40-something million on and off golf course golfers out there.
Looking forward to your presidency, what are you anticipating to be the hot topics or the big focal points in that 2-year term that's coming up in a year?
It's all going to happen under me, isn't it? I mean, let's be honest. If this rollback thing happens, they want to launch that during my president, right? I think it's 2026 is when that thing would go live. This Live PIFs thing's not going away. We'll see how that reorganizes the golfing world. So who knows? And then all the other audibles that you don't know. When I got elected secretary 2 weeks later is when Darryl Crawl left. About a month after that is when we had to move the PGA Championship from Trump's Golf Course to Southern Hills. Then we had COVID. We didn't know if the Ryder Cup was even going to happen in Wisconsin, and it did. And so, you know, hey, you don't know what's going to happen, whether you're a section officer or a national officer. That's why when you elect somebody, you got to elect them on their why, on their credibility, on their integrity, on their ability to do the research, to read up and make sure that you're an educated and informed person so that you can defend the 29,000 and make sure you know the pros and cons of every decision. So, you know, obviously those are the obvious ones. I don't know what else is going to happen. You know, obviously the president of the United States will be different at that time. We'll see what that does to the economy, what that does to, you know, how that might affect the PGA member. But at the end of the day, I got one metric, and people ask me all the time, you know, what do you think, Don? And the only metric I really care about when I'm done being president is how many people play golf. You know, we were at 7% at one time. Maybe we're hovering at 8 or 9% now. Granted, we're adding in those off-course golfers. That's cool with me. But at the end of the day, if I can't get 1 out of 10 people to play a game of golf that's good for your mental health, your physical health, your family health, I mean, what are we doing? And I know I can't control a lot of those external factors of getting more people to play the game. But if we don't do it, then who is? I mean, I got 29,000 soldiers out there, probably got 50,000 globally. If we can't get more than 1 out of 10 people to play golf, then we're doing something wrong. And so that's it, man. I mean, we can have net promoter scores and I can do all that stuff. At the end of the day, I think the members of the PGA will be happy if more people play golf because they'll make more money and they'll know that they can send their kids to college and retire. So that's it, man. That's all I'm going to work on, whether, you know, it's whatever I can do to get more coaching out there and to put the focus on how a PGA member builds relationships, which is sustainability at a golf course, and then to understand that they don't need to work 60 hours a week. 50 is fine. But I plan on meeting with all of the management companies and MCOs when I'm president, just to better understand what's going on with our members and how we can make sure they get paid more. I don't know if it's going to be a summit. I don't know what it's going to be. I just know I want to get close to the employers of our members and find out how they can pay us more and see the value in what we do. I want to get paid more if I bring you more money. That's it. And I believe PGA members, you know, I said this before, John, I look at us as a cost of goods sold. And I mean that in that we're not an expense. Don't look at a PGA professional as an expense. I make you money. And I would say more than Keystone. I mean, it ain't double. It might be 10 times, you know, what you pay me. So, you know, let me get my hands on the steering wheel of your facility and I'm going to drive you places you've never been before, right? And so that's what I'm going to be doing for the next 3 years, bro.
Well, I know you're not just blowing smoke, because in terms of getting our PGA professionals paid more and lending more to the work-life balance going forward as a key component of our success in recruiting and retaining more future PGA members. I know at Augusta Ranch, you've got teaching professionals and assistant professionals that are making a very lucrative living. And I think that they're making money for themselves. They're making money for you. Can you talk a little bit at a high level on how that's a success there at Augusta Ranch?
Well, you know, I mean, I was doing it before, but I think if you're going to be an officer of the PGA, you've got to do it. You know what I mean? If someone comes to Augusta Ranch, I want them to go, well, Don's doing everything that he's asking everybody else to do. I do PGA junior camps. Dan Lindsay does it for me, a PGA member who hated working the counter, helped him start his own business, and now he's doing a great job. You know, we've got a past president, Don LaHue, who does our PGA Hope programs. I've got a non-PGA member who's given lessons out there. I'm trying to get him to be a PGA member, but Maria's out there. And so, you know, at the end of the day, I want to do all the programs that the PGA does because I want to leverage the brand of the PGA. We have a lot of marketing assets, and Jeff Price does a good job, and our website gets lots of views to push people and use that as a funnel for me. Now, as far as the pay, you know, I did away with salaries. I don't do salaries anymore. I just think it's a catch-22. You know, either the employee is like, man, my hourly rate's jacked because I'm working 70 hours a week, or as the owner, you're like, I never see that person and I'm paying salary. You know what I mean? So you can't win. So one, I just think you should pay hourly and give them 50 hours so they get time and a half if that's what they want. Ideally, what I'm trying to do at Augusta Ranch is all I'm asking for is 3 to 4 shifts a week behind the counter. And the rest I want you teaching, and I want you doing it Will Robbins style. I don't want these, you know, if you want to do, you know, $2 a minute and do one-on-one lessons, I guess knock yourself out. But why? Why wouldn't you take some people on the golf course and do 3 or 4 at a time? I mean, the education that's on PGA.coach right now, of what Will Robbins is telling everybody to do, which is get on the golf course, teach multiple people. It is creating amazing income and building relationships. And so, I think, Pillsbury said it. I was at a golfing conference, and Pillsbury said a PGA golf professional working the counter is like a doctor serving as their own receptionist. And I agree. I can have an old guy work the counter, a young kid work the counter. I'd rather see a PGA golf professional walking the putting green, walking the line, playing 9 holes, 3 holes, 6 holes, walking around the grill. That's how we build relationships. And that's how, I think the golf professionals at Augusta Ranch are making money, because I can't afford to pay them too much. I mean, let's be honest, I'm still a par 61, but I'll tell you what, I'll give you an opportunity to make as much as you want, but you're going to have to go out there and coach up some people and get them to play golf. And hey, you play golf too, right? I mean, that's the beauty of it. That's why we all got in the game.
Well, Will Robbins has this great analogy about, a big pile of money in the golf business and the longstanding tradition or paradigm of the golf professional using a shovel to pick it up. And it's like, why would you use a shovel to pick up that pile of money when you could use a front loader and pick up 50 times as much money at the same time? So I've always held on to that analogy that he's made. You've always been such a champion for PGA Hope. I've seen you speak publicly. You're so passionate about it. Where do you see through the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, us growing the PGA Hope program as a vehicle to get more veterans playing golf?
Yeah, I do believe in it. I've said many times, PGA does a lot of programs that changes lives, but they only do one that saves them. And that's PGA Hope, right? And it's just because I've seen it, brother, at Augusta Ranch. I've seen veterans' lives get changed. I've gotten hugs and they got tears in their eyes because of what we've done, to get them out of their house and see some buddies and feel like a man again, or feel like a woman again. And so how do you not get passionate about that? And then on top of that, when I was at the Health and Wellness Week at Congressional last year, and I was in a room when they were talking about mental health, and all of them are dealing with stuff. PGA Hope gets them away from this stuff that's in their brain, man. And so, how can you not want to do that? And I think all we have to do is we just got to get more support. Where we're at now in the PGA of America is, PGA Reach, we want to endow programs, right? I mean, that's what you do at universities. That's what the rich people do. You endow things. You raise $100 million and you try to make 4 to 5% on that every year. And then you start endowing programs so that you never touch the nest egg. And that's really where we have to get to. And what we're doing on, anytime you do a big giving approach like that, a campaign, initially, those people who write the 7 and 8 digit checks, they want to be first in. So it's a silent phase. And that's where we've been. So it's the PGA of America is working hard right now. It's just most of our members don't know it because we're in a silent phase of a campaign right now. We're about to roll that out. It looks like it's probably going to be at the PGA Championship next year. There was a chance it would come out during the Ryder Cup, but it looks like next year at the PGA Championship, you'll see the public-facing side of fundraising. And then you'll see the commercials and like, hey, give here and give to this website. And I think that's what's really going to help our sections leveraging the brand of PGA Reach, because all of a sudden the public's going to know about PGA Reach. So the key to that is right now we need more people teaching, John. We don't have enough instructors. And there's some sections and out there and they're complaining like, hey, this 5-to-1 ratio, why can't we go 10-to-1? Because we're not. Because the deal we have with the Department of Veterans Affairs is that they feel that 5-to-1 is the best way to do it. And you might have 5 veterans that are squared up and don't need a lot of personal time. But what if you have one that's got some issues and you've got to dedicate more time to that, but all of a sudden you're a 10-to-1 ratio? You can't do it. We promised them that we'd be a real big rehabilitative program. That it's recreational, but we're rehabilitative. That's the whole program of what PGA Hope is. And so right now we don't have enough instructors in a lot of our sections to manage that 5-to-1 ratio. So one, we got to get more instructors. People got to get trained up because you have to be trained to get the lessons. And that's another Department of Veterans Affairs deal. You need to know how to deal with a veteran who's got above the knee or below the knee prosthetic. They got PTSD, whatever it might be. You have to be trained up. And then I think we'll do more veterans. The VA sent out an email earlier in the year talking about, because our website's up and running, PJ Hope, you can sign up for your programs now, right? And about broke the internet for us. And we found out we got waiting lists all over the place now with Hope, with veterans who want the PJ Hope program. So it's out there. We haven't even activated some of the marketing because we're just trying to manage what we have now. But at the end of the day, there's a governor on this, and the governor is we don't have enough PGA members to teach it. So we've got to be active in getting more PGA professionals to teach, because I can't do 50,000 veterans unless I have 10,000 PGA professionals doing this. And that's where we got to get to.
If you could wind back the clock earlier in your career, what would you tell yourself? What advice would you give yourself?
Good question. I wish, even though, I look like this very outgoing person, sometimes, I'm someone will, I don't think I would have done more of inviting myself sometimes, you know what I mean? Calling up a pro and said, hey, or maybe somebody I respect, like Bill Grove. Why didn't I call Bill Grove and Bill, Mr. Grove, do you mind if we have lunch one day? I want to ask you how you got to your job. I wish I would have done that. I tried to figure some of this out on my own, and I got the scar tissue to prove it, right? And I think that's what I would have done. I wrote a letter to Jim Flick asking him if I could watch him teach. And he wrote me back and said, yeah, anytime. And I never went up there. Why? Why didn't I go up there? I don't know. But I would have done more of that, because that's what I'm telling now these young professionals and certainly potential PGA members is to, we're all pretty nice people, men and women, 29,000, man, we're friendly. And we love talking about our job, and so it's okay to ask somebody, hey, you have time for a coffee, a beer, or lunch? You'd be amazed. And so I wish I'd have done that more. Even the past presidents of the PGA of America, a little scary bunch sometimes, Tom Addison's of the world out there. But you call Tom and say, hey, I got a question. He's going to give you a really good answer. And so I wish our young professionals would do more of that, because that's what young Don Ray should have done. He should have reached out more.
Fantastic. So as we're kind of approaching the end of our time here, we certainly know your time is precious. And again, we're very grateful for you carving it out this morning for us. How about something a little more golf business related at Augusta Ranch? How's the new Top Tracer technology working out?
Dude, Top Tracer, it is a game changer. I mean, there's just no doubt. I'm on a par 61 golf course, so I'm entry level as it gets, bro. I mean, it's the only reason I charge $10 for a junior to play is because I couldn't do youth on course unless I raised my rate, because I was always $5 for a junior to play, and they wouldn't let me get on youth on course because it's a $5 deal, right? So I figured I was getting a bunch of new golfers out there, but now Top Tracer, it's like when I needed glasses. When I put my glasses on the first time, all of a sudden I could see the leaves of the trees, right? And I was like, man, I didn't know what I was missing. That's what Top Tracer is. I mean, the 21 bays that we have, it's 100. I think it's been over 110 degrees in Arizona for like 30 plus days. Last Saturday, every bay was 110 at 8 o'clock at night. Every bay was full with a hour wait for each one of the bays. And these are people we've never seen before. And very rarely do people use Top Tracer on their own. It's not somebody grinded on their 8-iron. There's some of that, but a lot of it is friends and family and people coming out. When I raised the bucket price to $18, they're all like, gosh, no one's going to buy a bucket for 18. But what happens is they split the bucket. It's just like, Top Golf and splitting a bay time. I just charge by the bucket. We do reservations if you want to rent it for corporate wise. I've got 6 of my bays, John, or they're a little bit wider. I put in really nice 6-inch cushion patio furniture, and you can rent those out. It's almost like when you go to a pool and you got to get a cabana. That's the way we look at these 6 bays. They're like cabanas. Like, I'll give you full service in there, and it's nice stuff. But at the end of the day, all the bays are full, and you buy a bucket of balls, and it's all included. And it's habit forming. And I think if Top Golf's going to be the gateway drug to golf, which kind of is, why wouldn't I move them down the funnel and get them the Top Tracer? Because if I'm going to have a bay to fairway program, well, it might as well be my bay and my fairway, and they're 10 yards apart. So I think anybody, and the mobile version's good. I mean, it works perfectly. But at the end of the day, if you're going to do an enhanced range experience, I guess, God bless you, knock yourself out. Top Tracer is about families. That's why when you price it, you don't think about buckets of balls. You think about how much is an escape room? How about taking a family of 4 to a movies, amusement park? How much is that? You're now into pricing family fun and family activity. That's why you can't be comparing your bucket prices to other non-Top Tracer facilities, because it's a family amusement now. So it's the best, man. And now it's just the ability to move those people, from the Top Tracer bay to the putting green. little putting contest, whatever it might be, get them on that first tee playing 2 or 3 holes, and eventually into somebody who's going to play, 50 times a year. So yeah, that's the key. Top Tracer, man. If anybody wants to call me on the side, I'd love to tell them more about it. We are killing it. I mean, last June, before Top Tracer, range fee, I think I made like 7,000 on the range last June. This June, 37,000. 110,000 might be what I did on the range the entire year. We'll be well over 400,000 in range revenue this year, and that doesn't even count food and beverage. So don't think about it, just do it, man. And it's scary. I mean, I had to put my savings into it because everything ended up costing double because of the supply chain problems. But I'll get that money back in less than 2 years. I mean, it's crazy. So you got to do it and convince your owner to do it. It's the best money spent.
Yeah, I mean, out here on the West Coast, every facility that's done it, small 9-hole courses. I know Tom's son down in Oceanside has done it. It's revolutionary, and it is definitely a game changer. Can you share a little bit about how things are going at Frisco with the golf course and with the Omni and with the university?
Yeah, we missed Tom. He was recognized last year at our Master Professional Leadership Summit dinner. And this year we recognized Norm Blandell. Norm was, he's the one who actually created it, basically, this Master Professional Conference, in which we turned it into a summit. And so we had the dinner. I was just in Frisco for the merchandise show that's there. And I'm really excited about this. One, I love the Master Professional dinner that we had. We had a little leadership deal the next morning with our Master Professionals because what I'm excited about the show and our Master Professionals is that we have more people joining the PGA. It's working. Recruitment, career consultants, it's working. I know everybody's looking for assistant golf professionals, but help is on the way. Our PGM University stuff, we don't have the numbers yet, but we're very excited that we're going to surpass all-time enrollment for our PGM universities, but certainly our associate numbers are way up. And so what do we have? We're going to have a lot of people becoming PGA golf professionals. Well, we got to get a mentorship program, and we got to get it now, because giving somebody a recipe and calling them a cook, that's not what it is. You got to be in the kitchen cooking with them. And our PGA golf professionals need to be alongside. And we're behind on this, to be quite honest with you. We need a mentorship program. You guys do a good job of it, but we need in all 41 sections, a intentional effort to bring in these new members and keep them in by mentorship, by lunches, by dinners, by working alongside them, by holding them accountable, by inviting them to play golf. And so what I'd like to see for this fall show is it to be focused as a workshop for mentoring, getting a member to be specialized to be certified to be master professional. And so what does that mean for Frisco? It means that once a year at this show, we're going to bring them to our headquarters. We're going to bring them to the home of the PGA. They're going to see that first floor and how it's dedicated to education and learning the craft of being a PGA member. And so Frisco it's booming. I know there's a bunch of members out there. They're bummed about the rates and how can they charge us so much? So we don't own the golf course. We're running the golf course. Paul Ernest works for the PGA of America. He's the GM. We got 2 golf professionals that are PGA professionals. I don't worry so much about the rate. I mean, it's gonna work itself out. I promise you. But just think about it for 1 second. The Rolling family put in $500 million in cash, and I know they're going to get their money back. But they pretty much built through COVID. Their 2 industries were energy and hospitality, and COVID smoked them both. I mean, they were in bad shape, right? And they stopped construction for about 3 weeks, and then we were, they all knew that we had to open for the KitchenAid Senior PGA Championship of May of this year. We had to meet that deadline. So one, they didn't open the golf course with 2 mobile golf shops. They said, no, we want the first impression to be that everything's ready when we open the golf course. And they did that to their own financial detriment. And then they're investing in it. And so they got to make some of their money back. So they just opened the golf course. They just opened the hotel. It's all right. We're going to get some better rates down the line. I'm comfortable with that. But wait till that annual meeting's there. When the delegates see this annual meeting is going to be at Frisco, and I think everybody's going to walk out of there going, oh man, this is a beautiful thing. We brought the PGA of America to life at that campus.
I personally can't wait for that. That's going to be amazing. But
yeah, I love it.
Don, on behalf of the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA and the Southern California section as a whole, thank you for your service. Thank you for your inspiration. And thank you for carving out some time to join us this morning on the Catalyst webinar series. And good luck forming that Junior Ryder Cup team tomorrow in Arkansas.
Yeah, Paul Levy's coming out. Tom knows all about that, but and see it. But I'm going to throw one thing out there about this social media thing. You got to do it. Be on LinkedIn. Talk about what you're doing. I know you're not good at it if you haven't done it before, but at least if you're on those things, share maybe some of the PGA of America stories. We have a lot of different handles of the PGA of America. Just sharing those, and you can create your own content on social media just by sharing what the PGA is doing. We have to tell our story. I assure you the PGA of America is going to create a branding campaign, and it's going to be awesome. But at the end of the day, it's only as good as the 29,000. Viral stuff never happens top down. Viral things happen from the ground up. It's on the backs of the 29K. And so do it now. Get good at it. You'll get more comfortable with it. But whether you're on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook, or all three, wherever you're at, look at the PGA of America content, share it, comment on it, talk about who we are. And that's how we're going to make us relevant with all of this white noise of what's going on in our game. And I'll end with this. This question I get all the time about what's going on. It's like, man, I'm so tired of talking about men and women playing golf for millions when we have millions of men and women playing golf. Tell that story, and then we'll all end up making more money, and there'll be more people playing this game.
Thank you, Don. Have a good day, everybody. And for the PGA members that are on this morning's webcast, you will get 1 PDR credit for joining us this morning. And make sure you join us on August 17th with President John Linder. Thank you, Don. Have a great day, everybody.